Well, I'll go ahead and get started. It is Thursday, June 23rd, and I'm Natalie Fritz with the Clark County Historical Society, and we're here at the Heritage Center today with Linda Anderson, who's come to talk to us about Wrens and all of the different iterations of Wrens and other department stores. So I'll let you introduce yourself if you don't mind, and then I've got some questions.
Okay, I'm Linda Anderson, and I started in Wrens in, 1969, and went through the buying organization and started out like when I was on a team board, still in high school. We had, there was one girl that was selected from every high school to represent their school and work with Lois Bernstein, and we did fashion shows and events. We actually opened the first Taco Bell in Springfield, and we were out there waving to everybody, and we would do mostly style shows and things for around town, whatever was needed. We were in the Christmas parades and help with Santa Claus and things like that. And then after I graduated from high school, I worked there for a while and was going to go on to school, and ended up staying there and working through the buying program that they had, and became a buyer at the age of 20 and made my first trip to New York.
So the teen board that you was it called the teen board?
Yes, the teen board.
And it just was kind of
board.
So Wrens, so and it just did stuff all. So that was their kind of way to be
involved with the schools, promote girls from the different schools. Mainly it was fashion shows, and we worked with 17 magazine at the time, and any events that they wanted to have, like I said, the opening of the first Taco Bell in Springfield, the Christmas parades that we had, we would be part of the floats, and it was a fun thing at the time. And then it got to, let's see, girls weren't interested in doing that as time went on, so it kind of dispersed, probably I would say in the 80s maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the fashion shows and things, was that something they always had at Wrens, or did they do it at different places?
Mainly they were always at Wrens. We had a back to school fashion show. There would be bridal events where we would have special gowns shipped in from New York, and we had a bridal department at that time. So a lot of us girls, we got to wear bridal gowns before we were ever even thought about getting married, you know. But it was like a traveling trunk show. So, and another one that we had was Simplicity Patterns. We had a fabric department at the time. We sold fabric, and Simplicity would, again, made things, sent them in, and we would have shows in our tea room. Or we also had up on the 4th floor, which was the auditorium. We had a stage and everything, so.
What floor was the tea room on?
The tea room was in the basement.
Okay.
And it was a full-fledged restaurant, and they would have some events. Mainly it was open to the public, and we had a lot of the people that worked downtown, a lot of the lawyers, doctors. They would come in and have lunch there.
So from our last interview with Marguerite, who worked here in the 40s, she mentioned a cafeteria downstairs. Was that the same place?
And tea room.
It was all one.
You had the tea room was a sit-down restaurant. The cafeteria was, yes, you walk through a line and you picked up your food. So.
So you started in '69, which is just before, a couple of years before the mall. So you were part of that mall transition. Yes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I was a buyer at the time, and the mall opened up in 1972. And we saw that really throughout the country. Malls started popping up. When I first started, downtowns were downtowns. All the shopping, all record stores, discount stores, Woolworths, everything was downtown. Then the evolution came to malls, and that was a new thing. So when the mall opened up, nobody said, well, I'm not coming downtown. And that started many years of declining sales, and malls were exciting because you had lots of different stores. You didn't just have 2 or 3. You would have to go out of town to go to Lazarus. You'd either go to Columbus, Rikes, you'd go to Dayton, and Springfield. We had Wrens at the time. And a lot of little smaller, well, we call them boutique stores now, or specialty stores, were downtown. Honing's, which was a local owned store. So then once the malls came, wow, people would say, look at all these different stores. I mean, there would be some restaurants, but for the young, for the middle-aged, there was like shopping heaven in one building. Everything was inside too. So once you parked, you went inside, and you didn't have to go back out in the snow, the cold, the rain. You could just walk the mall. So then malls, through many, many, many years were it. But it's funny with retail how it's changed again. Now people want outdoor entertainment again. So malls have been suffering right now. And there's outdoor entertainment like the Green or Easton, what we have here in Springfield, North Fountain. People are starting to go to all these new little places and they're popping up. So malls were the hit for a very long time. I made my first trip to New York. It was in 1970. No, the mall opened in 71, not 72. I made my first trip to New York in 71. I was the junior buyer, and we bought for the mall and for downtown. But I can remember when we opened up our little store there, all the merchandise was coming in, it was being unpacked, it was being hung, visual would be in there doing displays, so it was quite exciting. It was a whole different, again, everything on one floor.
So did you split when the mall opened, did you split your time between both locations?
Most of the time we were downtown, but we would go out maybe 2 days a week. We had a separate staff of people out there. When we'd have events on the weekend, like again, we'd have fashion shows, and we would be out there on Saturdays.
Well, I know you eventually ended up at Reich's. So how did
The transition, well, we were Wrens for many years, and then there were actually 2 corporate offices. There was Allied Stores, which were a group of stores throughout the United States, and then there were Federated, and that was a group of United States, all stores all over the United States. And at one point they all merged, so we all became Federated. So we had gone from Wrens to Blocks, which was out of Indianapolis, for a very short time. So that meant we didn't need any more buying staff. We did not need any accounts payable, accounts receivable. They did all the buying for the store. So for that short of a time, we became Blocks. And then Allied and Federated merged. So all the stores throughout the entire country were under one buying organization. And that's when Reich's was at the mall, and then it went to Lazarus, and then we all became one. It was another transition of downsizing, basically, through corporate offices. So Federated merged with Allied, and there were no more Allied stores. We all became Federated at that point.
So just to clarify the locations, from my understanding, the Blocks was only the store downtown became called Block. Was there a Blocks in the mall
Yes.
also? I guess I didn't realize.
So we went from, both stores went from Wrens to
Changed to being
Blocks.
called, okay, because I wasn't sure if the one because I'd seen pictures of the downtown one,
Yeah.
but not anything in the
Yeah.
mall.
When we opened up as Wrens, and I can't remember the exact dates that we went to, it'd be the late 70s. Let's see, my daughter. Yeah, the late 70s is when the merger with the Blocks. And then once they merged again, the mall store went from Wrens to Blocks, and then from Blocks to Lazarus. So Reich's was out of Dayton, where Lazarus was out of Columbus, which was bigger. So the Reich store became Lazarus.
Okay.
It does get confusing over the names.
Same location? So I guess I need to be oriented to the physical location. I'm familiar with Macy's and where that was at the mall.
At the mall.
So where?
That store originally was Reich's when it opened. Then it went to Shillitoe's Reich's through merger after merger after merger. Shillitoe's was out of Cincinnati. Reich's was out of Dayton. and Lazarus was out of Columbus. So once all these mergers started happening, and then we had the little store Wrens. Wrens went from Wrens to Blocks to Lazarus.
And Wrens was on the other side of the mall.
It was down from
Macy's.
the Macy's
But
store.
were they on the same side?
Yes, on the same side.
Okay. So going towards Penny's.
Going towards Penny's,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
Yes. So there's been a lot of name changes.
Yeah.
And through mergers. And,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what corporate America does. You know, in the 80s, they were building stores, building stores, building stores. And then, wow, we need to start shrinking stores,
Yeah.
shrinking stores, shrinking stores, and names. So there's been a lot of history. And when you think of Ohio, we had Shiloto's, Cincinnati, you had Columbus, you had Reich's. And I mean, you had a lot of big name stores. And then it all became one.
So so how did your transition go from like who you were working for? Did you work for Blocks or Wrens as Blocks and then
Wrens.
eventually for Reich's?
No,
the
it
other
was
side?
Lazarus.
Lazarus? Okay.
Lazarus took over Reich's,
Ah, okay.
and then everything became Lazarus.
Okay. So then they had that whole side of the mall then, pretty
Basically.
much.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and in the mall store, after we were Blocks, they turned it into the Lazarus Kids Store.
Okay.
They called it the Kids Store, but it was still all Lazarus. And then once the next merger came, everything became Macy's.
And then Macy's closed in 2015.
Yeah.
And you were still with Macy's?
No.
No, you were not?
No, I retired in '04.
Oh,
I had
okay.
35 years with Federated and retired. And we actually closed the downtown store without, let's see, I'm trying to think who they were. Kaufman's, but they weren't, I don't,
And Kaufman's was out of Pennsylvania.
yeah, right.
Call, yeah.
Kaufman still exists.
Yeah, they're still, yeah.
Yeah.
Ours are, we don't have, I don't think we have any Kaufman's anymore. But we never had Elder Beerman up.
Elder
by
Beerman
us,
was
but that was
Dayton.
another one that, yeah.
Strictly Dayton. They were in competition with Reich's, so. And they were more family, local grown, where the rest of these were under either Allied stores or Federated stores. So.
Is it all right? Yep. Okay.
So after we closed the downtown store, which was Blocks, the total store was vacated. Then we were at the mall for a while in the small store. It was called Blocks. And then the next merger, we became Lazarus. And Lazarus for many years. And then where more mergers came, everything became Macy's.
Okay.
And we closed that small store because we could get everything back into the main store.
I said that side must have been, I think, I remember Walden Books over there.
Yep.
And yeah, on that side, so.
Gloria Jean Coffee, Orange Julius, all those names.
I said, I know that,
Jewelry stores, record stores.
that also, yeah.
Camelot.
We had a, last week was the 1-year anniversary since the mall officially closed. And we had done a post just asking people what stores they remembered and everything. And that was a really popular of just people, all different stores throughout time. And before it closed last year, we had put up pictures of the different storefronts at the end to see if people remembered all the different stores that had been in those locations. And people could go really far back as to, what they remembered.
I mean, I can remember the grand opening. I can remember, like I said, we were hanging merchandise, getting everything. It was quite an event because Salem Mall, a lot of people don't realize this, Salem Mall in Dayton was the first mall in this area. And then Upper Valley, when they built that, was the second mall in this whole Dayton, Springfield area.
That was a huge deal.
That was a huge deal. I remember in high school, we drove to Salem Mall. Well, what's a mall, And you walk in and you see all these stores under one roof. You go, wow. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then Upper Valley was the second before the Dayton Mall. So it was pretty exciting for Springfield to have that.
Yeah, yeah. I say, I know even, I mean, my kids didn't get to see it with a lot of stores in it, but we did like to go to the mall a lot because, it was a nice place to walk because it was inside.
Exactly.
And it wasn't terribly busy, and it was a place we knew that we could go with them. So they have, I would, even when we did a virtual program about it with a lot of people sharing their memories of the mall last year. And I said, I hope that even though they won't know it the way other people knew malls to be, they have good memories of being there themselves. So, it's everybody And now, whatever it's going to be now, we got to go there in March and see it.
Oh, you did? With all the torn, everything is gutted. Yeah,
Very weird.
it is. But I mean,
Very weird to
I'm
see.
glad they're painting the
But,
outside.
yeah, it
In my
looks-
opinion, it looks better.
it does.
Looks like there's going to be activity, whatever.
And I know there's a lot of businesses lined up to be in there, and there was
Oh,
already
okay.
one that had moved in when we were there in the spring. So
Storage, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Industrial storage.
different thing. Yeah, so I mean, it's still getting a use at least, and,
And it got a facelift. I mean, some people, I did read those comments too. Well, it looks like a jail. It looks like.
No, I think it looks
disagree.
better. I think it does look much better.
I do too.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about. Did you work with Jerry Boswell?
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
I worked, like I said, I worked with him till the very end
Yeah.
when we closed the building. And that would be, it was 1984 when we closed Wrens, yeah. So we did a lot together, and you know, he was a great asset. Our windows were fabulous. He had a flair for fashion, putting things together, and that's something you really can't teach too much. You know, you have it, and he did all the displays, did the potluck players. I mean, that fourth floor of the building has a stage, and we put on events where people would come in and see the potluck players. At Christmas time especially, we always said we had the best Santa Claus. We had the real Santa Claus downtown. I have my picture when I was a kid, downtown Wrens. And then I have my children's pictures downtown Wrens with the real Santa Claus.
We've got some great pictures in our archives of people with Santa. Did you have anything to do with a breakfast with Santa that was?
Not too much. Took my kids there.
Yeah.
You know, I basically, when we became blocks, I had to run the store, but when we were Wrens, I was a buyer. And I mean, we would have, you know, maybe 10 buyers, and we went to New York. We actually bought all the merchandise for both stores. And Jerry did all of that type of coordinating, anything under visual advertising. Back in the day, we did our own print. You didn't have anything digital. We had an artist that would draw. We'd take our merchandise up and say, okay, this is what we want to show in the Sunday ad. And she'd sit there and she'd draw it. And
I say, well, last year we got a collection from Ann Armstrong.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and
Yes.
She had a lot of her drawings that she had done for ads alongside the ads that ran,
yes,
and she had some of the printing plates too that were used for the paper. So that was
I
a really
believe I have some of those too. Because like when we closed the building, there were things that like it's going to go in a dumpster. Well, I brought them all home, and I've got them like stored in a tote and everything.
Yeah, I know you shared some of that at the program that they did. The
Yeah.
kids and,
Some of those pictures were like in the 40s.
and
They
I
were
think
very
I
old.
think you ended up either we scanned them because I
No,
know
I
we've
made
got them
them
in the okay, yeah, we have them. Those are some of the stuff that we're gonna have in the exhibit. I think some of the because we're recreating a window. We're going to have a window display to be able to share some of the stuff we have from Wrens in the collection and stuff like that. But you'd given some that were window displays, which we didn't have any window display pictures or anything before that. As much as people, and that's what as much as people remember, you know, things about the downtown, I'm always sad. Like someone must have pictures of things out there somewhere, but we just haven't seen them yet. So maybe things will make their way here because we know that people have those memories. It's nice when we've got pictures to be able to show other people too.
Well, I'll dig through my
So-
box. I'll bring you some more
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. But yeah, I'll say it's got a long history. I mean, we're gonna go back to the original history of Canaan and Wrens and the dry goods store and everything too, to let, tell people about that as well, to show them how long it was around. And I know a lot of people still call Bushnell Building, they call it Wrens.
I do too. The Wrens building, and now that the poor garage is torn down, it's just
Yeah. Well, they're calling that other building on the corner now that they're going to build. They're putting the new condos in, the one the McAdams. Well, in my head, I call it the McAdams building, but they're calling it the Wrens building now.
Yeah.
Is the new name that they're calling it. Which there was a Wrens there, but I'm like, well, most people will be confused because I know most people call that one the Wrens building.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. But yeah, I know that we'd seen something about. In the paper when the first parking garage opened up across the street, the one that there was one in the 50s that opened, but they didn't open the one in the one that they just tore down opened in, I think, around 60 or so. That was connected to the building. So yeah, it's very weird to see that entire area over there without the parking garage. So, do you have any particular stories or memories or anything that you would like to share?
There's many. I mean, you became very much of a family too. I mean, all the individual stores, had presidents, buyers, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and then once the mergers came, buyers left. But we knew Springfield. I mean, I was the junior buyer. I could go to market and pick out things that certain people in Springfield would like, and that was always the fun part of it. One of the biggest things that I think we did, we converted the basement. Basements used to be considered bargain basements in really all the stores. And Macy's in New York had made theirs as called the cellar. So our whole basement got redone, and it was sort of taken off of the Macy's basement. We had a new candy department. We had home goods. It was all set up kind of like boutiqued all the way around. So that was a big thing for Springfield. I mean, it wasn't just like a bargain basement. So they put a lot of time and effort and money into that, and that was a big success. And when we opened that, we had a launch. We had like a private party for all the dignitaries of Springfield, and that was when Calvin Klein jeans came out, and that was like a big hit. Everybody was wearing Calvin Klein jeans, so that was kind of interesting.
So as a buyer, what's the process there? Like, how do you decide? Or how does that whole process work of getting the stuff to the store?
Well, we had Allied Stores had headquarters, and you would go to headquarters, and they would put on fashion shows and tell you what the market's looking like and which vendors you should probably go see. So then you would make appointments, and you would go to the vendors, and you would sit down with them and review their line, take notes. Then you made orders, sent the orders in, and the merchandise came to us, and we'd display them on the floor and how you wanted it set up from all the different vendors you buy. And you have to have so many tops, so many bottoms, and maybe some of the groups were all collections. Being from Springfield, you kind of knew what would really go, but yet you wanted to be on the forefront of fashion too.
So did you buy from multiple departments yourself?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you saw. I mean, I could easily have 10 appointments a day with different vendors, and you would pick and choose what you had a budget, of course, and you would balance it out on what was the newest thing. When Michael Jackson did Thriller, that was a big thing, and we had the glove, and we had the little white shirt and the vest, and we had a whole Michael Jackson department. So if that was what was trending, we brought it to Springfield. You can't be just kind of boring all the time, whatever New York was showing, we tried to bring back to Springfield. And whether it be in the dress department or the coat department, I have bought in ladies' first floor sportswear. I bought all the junior department. I bought coats. I was also a lingerie buyer, and we had what was it? Sort of like a Victoria's Secret area. But we didn't have Victoria's Secret at that time, so you bought some of that too.
Yeah, we were talking to Marguerite. I was just trying to clarify now. Anyone looking at the Bushnell building now, it's broken up into all different sorts of businesses. It's hard to imagine, that used to be all one big department store with lots of different departments and everything.
Yeah, and when you go downstairs, you're thinking, okay, well, this used to be the Macy's cellar, or this used to be part of the restaurant area. It is, and then I'll go upstairs and think, okay, third floor, that was the second floor was like all fashion. Ladies, all clothing, the bridal department. We had a fur department too. We stored people's furs. We had a fur vault back in the day. Now nobody wants a fur, right? And we got lots of them still hanging in closets and stuff. But people would bring in their furs, and they would be cleaned and stored in the fur vault. Bridal department, see, people don't think of that. A department store really had everything into one store, whether it was children's, whether it was fashion, whether it was boutique, whether it was men's, shoes, cosmetics, all of it was in one area. Beauty salon. We had a beauty salon. We had a photography department.
There was a mention of, I know they used to have a lending library. Did they still have that by the time you started there?
No.
Yeah, I think that was something that was probably, she mentioned it was there in the 40s, and I know we had someone that had brought us some books that had worked there in the 50s, so I don't think it probably went much past the early 50s.
We had a record department. Now, I did start there when it was up on the mezzanine in the men's department. They sold records. They might have had books in there too, but I don't know if it was a lending.
Yeah. Well, this one, she said it was like 5 cents a day or something.
Oh, no, that was before my time.
New books and stuff before they were available in the libraries. But yeah, it had a lot of stuff. And
you could go in for one store for everything, from children's, men's, get your hair done, get your cosmetics, jewelry, hosiery department. It was hosiery where you could open the box of hosiery and pick out your hose, and it was things evolved to different situations, I guess. You know, but it was great working there. I mean, I was very fortunate to be able to work my way up, become a buyer at the age of 20. I went to New York 9 times a year, and I went to California once a year. So California was altogether different, but you could go to New York and just be part of all of that Broadway plays, Macy's, but yet you were doing it for your work. So that was kind of, it was a nice fringe benefit. Yeah. Greatest food in the world, I think. And but you worked hard. You brought back whatever the latest trends were, and you hope that Springfield appreciated it. So,
well, I know hearing other people talk about their memories of it, I know they think they did.
Oh, we even had a hat department, millinery. Back in the day, that was very popular. I mean, that was even really before my time.
Yeah.
When women still wore hats.
We've got several hats and hat boxes too from there.
Yeah.
So. I say we've got pictures in the archives from the early years, some like 30s and 40s, of little departments, like the stationery department, and there, different things like that. So it's.
But it was interesting when you think about, like now, ads and things, when you have somebody actually, an artist drawing, and I've got some of those pictures too, I believe, at home. That I could bring in for you.
Yeah, and even going through old papers, you don't really think about that someone hand drew this ad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it went to the paper. It went over to the Springfield paper. It got printed, and then went out for release.
And I've seen we've been going through the papers upstairs, and we're only up through the 1961 now, but I'm seeing things like Wrens Dollar Days, and I don't know if that's something that continued later. But different, promotional things that they had throughout the years. So,
we used to have $2.99 blouses. Now that was when I started. They would bring a big tub of them, and we'd get them out, try to put them on a table. People were just digging through it. $2.99 blouse sale. Things are different now. Can't think of I'm trying to think of anything else that was. I mean, they were special, from the breakfasts, from the tea room. Everything is in one building, and you could just shop furniture, rugs. We had our own credit department. You had your own little credit card.
We have cash carrier things. They used to actually have they have the vacuum. Did they have? They have the vacuum?
No, we did not. That would be the hub department.
Okay, the hub had a pulley system.
Yep. Or you put it in there, and it'd go up to the second floor with your money. But we had a credit department, and when I was training, I had to work in that. And they'd call up there, and Mrs. Smith wants to charge, $680. So you had to go over and find her credit card, her history, and you had to put it, and you say, okay.
Oh my gosh! So they didn't have actual physical cards.
We had a card. It was a little metal card, and you put it through the stamper. But if it was a certain amount, you had to call upstairs, and then they kept a running file, and then we sent out our own bills to the customer. Here's your credit statement. not like a swipe today.
Did they ever have a catalog at all?
Not really. We would have maybe at Christmas time, there'd be a special thing that Allied would send out. It might be cosmetics or it might be a gift, but not like a Sears catalog.
Yeah.
No, no, never had anything like that.
Well, I want to thank you for
I can't think of
coming
anything
out.
else.
And
I
I
mean,
say
I
if
could
you
go
think
on and
if you
on and
if you
on
if
and
you
on.
if you think of anything, but yeah, this is you know, we'll have a display here in our lobby, and we'll have something over at the library too, to kind of, because I'm sure, you know, the amazing thing, I mean, the building's still standing, and part of the buildings where it was on limestone are still standing, and people probably don't have any idea of the history. So
I think part of that, when you got from the Facebook post you guys did, some people commented about the machine that would be in the basement, and the little kids, you'd stand in there and get your feet measured.
oh yeah, like an X-ray.
Like an X-ray machine. Yeah, we had that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now that's not good, but
Oh, one more question I thought of. Marguerite was talking about the window displays, and it sounded like there was kind of a little atrium area where there was even more windows that came further out onto the street. Was it still like that when you worked there? I mean, that there was multiple windows along Main and...
yeah, we would have the front. They were like what it looks like today. Those would all be windows, and they'd be windows, and they were broken down. And on Fountain side, which was our men's entrance, when you go into Stella Blue now, you kind of go through that little area, and there's a revolving door, and there were windows all in there too.
And that's still...
That is still there.
But she said it was similar. There was something similar to that on the Main Street
Main
side,
Street?
that you could kind of walk around in between before you actually went in the real entrance. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure when they got rid of that, but I've never even seen pictures of that layout. So
I'll have to look and
so
see what
anyway.
I've got. I might have something.
all right. Well,
Okay.
well, thank you so much.
Oh, you're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
Anything else I can think of, I'll let you know.
All right.
If you have any specific questions.
Yes. Yeah. I say as we put together the display, we'll see if we come up with anything,
Okay.
any questions.
All right.
So.
Okay.